In the discussion of collection framework, the discussion will not be complete if we do not include Java legacy classes. Actually, Java legacy classes, I understand that it is not so much useful at the moment, because the more better facilities is basically provided by the Java collection framework there, but Java legacy classes still many programmers like it. There are two reasons for this. First of all, it is fast, this means that it is very useful, but second thing is that it has more what is called the sophistication in the context of the synchronized versus non-synchronized manner. What exactly I want to point out is that all the collections that we have discussed under the categories of Java collection framework and Java map framework, they are basically not synchronized, whereas all the collections, if you maintain using Java legacy classes, then they are synchronized. Now, what is the difference between synchronized collection and non-synchronized collection? The synchronized collection means, as you know, the parallel execution. So, that means if two or more programs access the same collection, which is very much common in distributed programming, because if you store your collection in a server and then there are requests from the different client that collection needs to be accessed, either modify or whatever it is there, then parallelism or concurrent execution is an important issue. So, if you want to have your concurrent execution for your collection, then definitely the collection framework, the latest collection framework is not suitable, because they are non-synchronized, whereas the Java legacy classes, the collection according to these Java legacy classes are synchronized. That means the parallel program execution is possible. Now, we have a brief idea about the different constituents in Java legacy classes. So, here in this lecture we will a little bit elaborate about the different compositions. Now, before going to know about the different elements in it, I just want to say that what exactly the history of creating Java legacy classes is there. Now, prior to Java 2, actually Java legacy classes is the only ways to handle a large collection, and to facilitate the older collection sets, they proposed many classes. The dictionary is very similar to the map that we have discussed. Then hash table, it is basically another what is called the way of viewing. It is just like a hash concept. That means, if you want to access a particular object, then you have to have the key value for that object and then hash it. It is just like map only. Properties is also similar map. So, dictionary, hash table, properties basically same as map only. And then stack and vector. Stack is basically the concept of just queue and then stack concept, those are there, and vector is basically a simple the indexed collection. And here you can note that there is no more collection view using linked, indexed or sequential or tree form or whatever it is there. So, in that sense Java legacy class was not so exhaustive or elaborative, or we can say it is not so much efficient compared to this a current the collection framework facilities is there. And now interface, again it is very simple most, it does not have many interfaces, only all classes are there, only one interface is there, this interface is called enumeration. So, this is basically the idea about this one, and this is basically main important that user still likes, not only because of its simplicity, but because of that it allows you to access the collection in a synchronized manner. and as it is synchronized manner, so complexities those are there in case of collection framework is not here. Or in other words, collection framework is so complex, so different mechanisms or so different structures or views are there. So, that synchronization implementation bit difficult, that is why Java developer carefully ignore it, but it retains in its Java legacy classes. Now, let us first discuss about the enumeration interface. It basically create an enumerated collection. Enumerated collection means we have that user defined data type, that enumerated type, and it basically useful for creating a new enumerate. Okay, it is an interface, so no object of this type can be created, but if you can create any collection that can be stored in an in an enumeration list actually, that is the way that you can do it, and it has basically main purpose about traversing a particular collection. So, for this traversing there is a methods, those are there is an interface method, all these interface methods are basically available to other methods. So, it has more elements and next element are the two methods are there. Now, let us see the class vector. It is a very important one concept. This concept later on has been incorporated in Java collection framework, as the name there is called array list. So, which is array list in Java collection framework is basically the vector in Java legacy class. Now, vector has very simplicity. Vector is basically an array, that means a indexed mechanism to store the data. You can define, you can store any type of objects into this vector, and it has only few simple what is called the constructors. The default constructor, you do not have to mention anything, it will create a collection of type vector, and then if you can mention the size of the vector, initial size, you can also mention initial size and by which the increment, that automatically the vector will grow. Also a vector can be created, a collection of type vector can be created having an existing collection, say C. So, if you can give an input of the existing collection, then a vector can be created then. So, these are the different constructors under this vector class. Now, so far method is concerned, I again reiterate that all the methods are very similar to the method that we have discussed in the context of Java collection framework, that is there in collection interface, like here add element, capacity, then cloning. Cloning means if you want to create from the vector to new array. If you given an array as an object, you can copy all these objects into a vector collection, that method is there, and then like insert, index of, knowing the status, whether a particular vector collection is empty, or if you want to remove an element, if you want to see what is the current size, all these things are basically are there. So, all these operations related to the insertion, deletion, traversal and modification and knowing the status. So, these methods are defined there in vector class. Now, you can note one thing, the stack. Stack is very important data structure, but if you recall the Java collection framework, there is no explicitly defined any collection type stack, only queue is there, there is no stack like there in there. This is because queue is basically planned in such a way that using this queue as a collection, you can use the queue as a stack, you can queue as a queue, you can queue as a priority queue, you can use queue as a double ended queue or deck. So, that is the one form, but it can be used to facilitate many other what is called the requirements. But here the same thing, it is stack. Here stack is the only one representation is a collection, but it can be used to use it as a stack as well as a queue and then priority queue. So, that is why here queue is not mentioned explicitly, whereas in Java collection framework stack was not mentioned explicitly. Now, stack is basically to enforce one policy, it is called last in first out policy. That means the element which will be insert last will be deleted first. You cannot do the deletion in any order, it is that order is the order of insertion deletion like, and then it can also includes any type of objects in it. irrespective of whatever it is there, and it has only one constructor, the default constructor, to create a stack. We do not have any other constructor there. And so far method is concerned, very simple method. The push method is basically to add an element into the stack, and then pop elements basically return the elements at the tab, and it also remove the element once the pop operation is carried out. Now, pick operation, just like is pop, it basically see the value, but it will not remove the element from there, and it will also check whether stack is currently empty or not by means of empty method it is there. And obviously search method is there, by which we can say whether particular element in the stack or not. So, these are the only few simple most methods are there in the stack class. Now, class has table, and subsequently the dictionary properties whatever are there in the Java legacy classes, they are basically the hashed content. I means the objects along with the key values are to be maintained there. So, hash table has the two different type, key and v, and here key can be of any type and v can be of any, v is of any objects. So, basically the concept is the same that is there in map, it is also useful here in hash table also. Now, if you want to create a hash table according Java legacy class, there are few constructors that you can follow. The default constructor without specifying any arguments, and it basically create a collection of Java legacy class of default size 11, and then size also you can mention whatever the size for the better memory utilization, and also at the same time size and field ratio, that means in which rate the hash table collection can grow automatically, and also it can be created using upper bound specifying the keys and as well as object. So, upper bounded argument object can be there. So, this is the last constructor. Now, the methods are very similar to the map methods, those are there, or we have already discussed, like clear, clone, contents, contents key, contents value, and then get, and then put, and then the method is basically called isEmpty or whatever it is there. So, those are the very standard method by which you can access elements, can modify the entries in the collection, and then know the different status or traversing the collection. Now, class properties. Property is very similar to hash table. It is very similar in the sense that it basically use the key and value pair, but there is only one difference is that for the properties key values as well as object value are to be string type only. So, that is the only difference, otherwise it is there. So, which you can implement using properties can be utilized using hash table, but opposite is not possible. This is because the Java initially sees everything as a string. So, if you can represent a number as a string and user defined object also as a form of a string, a floating point values also as a string, and there is a facilities by which Java can allow a programmer to convert a string to a integer values or a floating point values or a boolean values or any other type of values. So, string is basically in the sense convertible from one form to another. Likewise, an integer number also can be converted to string and whatever it is there. So, this mechanism is basically exercised here. So, the property is basically a hash table, but with the constant that both key and value are of string type. Now, so there are two constructors only. One is the default constructor. So, create a collection without any values in it, and then there is another is that given an existing properties, if you create a new properties, then you can create it. So, these are the two ways the constructors are there in for the properties class, and the methods are basically almost same as the hash table methods. In addition to it, there are few methods. Obviously, those methods are for internal conversion from string to values and values to string and vice versa. So, those methods are mentioned here. So, one is basically get property, it basically return a string, that means what is the property of a key values it is there, and then there is a list also, it will list all the key values that is stored in there. Similarly, load, and there is another is that also from the file you can create objects and then store them as a map like properties. So, there are few methods in this there using input stream and output stream. Those things are basically the advanced concept while the file input output or data input output or input stream output stream needs to be considered. So, it is basically a versatile property is a very huge so far compared to other classes those are there in Java legacy classes, because initially Java gives enough importance to string only, therefore, storing an efficient manner according to the older version of Java is basically using the properties only. And there is another store and load method also allows the programmer to store and load data, storing data and loading from data from the external memory also. Store and load is very useful method for external, whatever the other methods are basically from the internal memory or primary memory, but store and load for the secondary memories. Now, there is another class dictionary. Dictionary class is very similar to the map concept that we have discussed. It is a map only, unlike the hash table and properties that we have discussed. It also like the discuss it is unlike the properties and hash table, it is basically an abstract class. What is the concept? That means all the methods those are there defined in defined actually you can create a customized class extending dictionary class to be in your own. So, Java gives it is little bit a blank check like. So, whatever the thing that you want to do, you just simply implement dictionary. That means a compatibility issue can be restored and it can ensure it. So, there is no much about so far the current programming situation is concerned. The dictionary is really hardly used by any programmer, because more the dictionary which is now which is earlier and then map is which is now is much more. So, map gives more facilities than the dictionary. So, people prefer maps only, the dictionary is highly overlooked here. But dictionary is an interface, it gives design rule that what are the different methods that a programmer, if you want to implement dictionary, can utilize here. So, there are a few basic methods I have mentioned here. Elements is a method, get is a method, is empty, and then put method, remove method, know the size of a dictionary collection, size method. Those are the few methods are there in the dictionary. Again, I want to say that if you want to implement dictionary, it is your responsibility to implement all these things. Now, why you can go for implementation? This is because implementation enables you to access all those collection in a synchronized or parallel execution. Otherwise, why you should go for having this one when the map, the better supports is available to you. Okay, so with these things, I just want to conclude the discussion about Java collection concept and its facilities. Definitely, learning will be complete only when we can utilize all those methods in some program based. So, programming issues will be discussed next. Now, our plan of the discussion for the remaining course is basically to cover one by one the different data structures. Different data structure means those are the theoretically data structures are available like array, linked list, tree and graph, many things are there. Then we will discuss about how all those data structures without using JCF can be implemented. So, realization of this data structure from the core, that means without taking the help of java.util. Then we shall discuss about how a particular data structures can be exercised using the Java collection framework facilities or map framework facilities. So, this is basically the plan from the next week onwards, and I hope you are enjoying this course and be involved. What the link has been given, you should go through the link, study materials and then enjoy it. Thank you.